Hershey's Candy Cane. Mint candy with candy bits. When you need a little pick-me-up, it's candy. Candy, 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 candy.
Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Gazbot, and today is day 36 of 100 days of making comics. Now, I sound pretty chipper and energetic, but I'm actually quite tired. It's about 2:30 a.m. in the morning, so it's actually technically day 37 now, but it's day 36 in terms of the work day. So today, what did I do? Well, I put in 2 hours into my own comic project of the horror. I spent about a half hour doing some soft rewrites. Soft rewrites being based on the notes that my friend Derek, friend/professional writer, Derek Mccaw gave me. But I knew I was going to meet him later, so I didn't want to get too heavy into it. So I just kind of changed some of the objective things, like clarity and things like that. The other hour and a half I spent using the research which I gathered the other day to create a military police sort of SWAT team grunt on the ground officer. Officer in the sense of police officer, but not officer in the sense of military, because I had created some like actual higher up officers, and this is more for like the foot soldier, for lack of a better term. And so I did a process video of that. That took me about an hour and a half, which brings us to a total of 2 hours, which is what I like to hit as my minimum. And I'm going to go ahead and put up the process video right now.
So you can see the reference I have on the left, which I pulled the other day, mostly of SWAT and riot gear. First thing I thought I'd do is just sort of lay in the body structure in a pose. I just did the legs a little bit there. I saw a lot of pictures with the officers and soldiers and whatever holding the gun sort of at a down angle, sort of, I guess, a ready position, but not threatening necessarily. So I went for that for my kind of neutral pose. I considered having it completely neutral, but I felt that having it in sort of a guard stance would help capture the personality as well. And this was me grabbing some, it was listed as military police, but obviously this uniform had sort of hazmat or gas protection as well, which a lot of the riot gear and SWAT type stuff did as well. But I kind of patterned the basic under suit, if you will, on this, and I knew I was going to put more things on top of it, so I didn't worry about it too much being too perfect, or conversely copying it too perfectly. But I basically, that's what I was doing, is I was doing a sort of a rough copy of this exact suit, knowing that I would put more things on top of it, but that this would be the undersuit. And that gun I sort of made up is sort of a cross between like a tactical shotgun and more of an old-fashioned, I don't know what the gun's called, but I saw a lot of like World War II and World War I kind of Nazis holding them with the long clip, almost like an old-fashioned AK-47 or something, but it's neither of those. I just made it up. And here you can see I was putting on that big ridiculous helmet, trying to jazz it up a little bit. I ended up not really using that. That was a placeholder. So then I pulled up a bunch of samurai armor reference, because I thought it would be cool to have a little bit of that flare on the over armor, to make it protective and kind of, again, riot gear, SWAT gear, but I don't want it to look exactly like ours in America in modern day. I don't want it to look exactly like any country or any time, but still look realistic and reminiscent of something we might see today or maybe a few years from today in a country on our world. And here you can see I was doing more modifications of the gun for the same reason. I kind of imagine that as being some kind of shield in front with maybe a target built in. I may or may not keep that. And here was my second pass at the helmet, and you could definitely see the samurai sort of Japanese influence on the head crest, which was basically on top of a otherwise standard looking helmet. And here I was adding another shoulder pad, but I wanted it to be asymmetrical and kind of stick out, sort of like one of the pieces of samurai armor. It also kind of reminds me of the character Scorpius from Farscape, but I wanted it to be a little bit bulkier and stick out at an odd angle so it would be very distinctive. Here I go again working on the gas mask helmet aspect. I think those gas masks are from Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, the white ones that kind of look like skulls, and I thought it was crazy that that actually exists. That's like a real mask helmet somewhere. Then I decided, it might be a good idea to flesh out the face a little bit more so that when I'm putting the mask on it, I could line up the goggles and the mouthpiece and not get too crazy oversized or undersized. And I just clean that up a little bit. I think I accidentally erased his ear. Here I am. Then I thought I'd build it the other way, starting with a sort of gas mask. and going from there, or rebreathe or whatever you want to call it. And I gave it little pipe-looking things or filter-looking things on the side instead of one big canister in front. And then, filters on the sides, kind of tilted backwards, and, just sort of a semi-realistic gas mask, but again, without referencing anything real. And then eye protection, sort of goggles, like similar to ones I've seen. And once again, I know it's a recurring theme of, like, I do a lot of research, see stuff, and then kind of draw something based on what I've seen without actually copying it, which is probably why it's good I'm setting this in sort of a futuristic world like ours, as opposed to being actually our world. Here I was toying with the idea of putting cameras on the helmet, and then I was like, oh, maybe the cameras have, like, horns or decorative fins or something, and then here was the cameras up more, and it looked a little bit too much like a cat to me when I did that. So I ended up nixing all of that and just sort of saying, okay, that's a standard helmet. Maybe I'd make it smaller. Nope, I like it the size it is. All right, let's just move this away. But keep the gas mask and try a different design using that same basic gas mask. And you can see I moved the cylinders up, forward, and smaller. Some ear protection. And here I gave him more individual goggles, one for each eye as opposed to the more ski goggle looking kind, and I erased that to redraw the exact same way. And that is another crest that I see on a lot of samurai armor. It's sort of like a crescent moon or a watermelon. I ended up liking that mask, but I think if I use it, I will ditch that head crest. It's a little too goofy looking. Now I decided to go back in and work on the over armor, and you can see I'm basing it on kind of the image to the left there, as far as the armored plates. Again, not exactly. I mentioned that red spot would be some sort of badge of office. Not exactly, but the idea of like a vest over the undersuit, or the uniform, I should say, with armored plates. And I kind of gave him a heavy neck reinforcement on the front and back, a nightstick type thing. Even though he's got the gun, having a baton of some sort is always good for non-lethal or close combat. And then I just sort of redrew what I already had, but I put in some extra lines to give it, again, more of a samurai kind of look to the shin guards. And I put in just sort of plugs on the knee pads and the elbow pads, which I imagine being similar to the usage of like spikes on medieval armor, but less lethal, where they could still inflict damage, but were less likely to, they're not going to puncture someone, they're just going to give them a nasty welt. And here I was adjusting the head to make it fit better with the neck guard I had created, indicating the neck a little bit. And then I believe the next thing I did was I started working on another helmet. And this helmet is based heavily on the one, again, to the left with the big visor in front. A lot of them had the big visor, and I kept trying to incorporate it, but it's hard to make it look good, intimidating, cool, whatever, without something under it, which is why you see me now making another gas mask. This one I did asymmetrically with a sort of a square rebreather and a circle one, and I was thinking like, oh, well, maybe one of these is for, gas, and one is for, smoke in a fire, or like different purposes or something. But again, I just like the asymmetry of it. And now I'm just throwing in some color so that it will block out the face. Yeah, just to make it more opaque, and then I put some white in for the shine. And that one looked okay. Oh, and now okay, so this is what I'm doing. I'm going through all the helmets and just giving it some opacity to it so I could lay it on top and not see the face underneath, so I'd have a better idea of what it would actually look like on the character. I pretty much know this one right here I like, but I'm not going to use because it's a little too distinctive. It's a little too much of a hero helmet, whether a good guy or a bad guy, hero villain or a hero, but a main kind of character would be. So that was something they wear. I kind of like the way I did that one, where I outlined it in white. This one is almost. I have the same visor, but it's flipped up, but it can flip down. That one I like a lot, but it looks a little bit too much like Cobra, like a G.I. Joe enemy. A little too perfect evil villain, which is not really what I'm going for. Basically, I was happy with the overall look of the character and the armor and the uniform. I was just experimenting with all the different helmets, and what I did here was layered them all in so that I could cycle through them and see what each one looks like on the head, but then I made copies and laid them around them And I'll probably use one of these or possibly a combination of them in the soldiers, maybe different units will have different helmets. And that's it.
So yeah, there's that. And in addition to that, I had a pretty productive day because in addition to that, I worked more on that Kid Switch page, which I'm not going to put up, but I started inks on that, and so that's good. And I don't know, I put an hour or two into that. Then I did have my meeting with Derek Mccaw. Meeting sounding pretty formal. It was, Dennys. And we discussed a bunch of things. It was good to catch up with him, but also, part of the impetus for getting together was to go over his notes and just discuss my story in general. And we did do that, which I'm not going to get into the details of which, because a lot of it would be spoilers. But I got some specific notes from him about sort of the ending and sort of events leading into the ending, very similar to those that I got from Q. Which may kind of change what I was going to do, and I'm struggling with myself if I want to change it or not, now that I've had feedback from two different people, not necessarily telling me what to do, but sort of saying, hey, we have a question about this, and what if it didn't go in this exact direction. And again, it's hard to talk about because I don't want to spoil anything, but the bottom line is I need to make some rewrites, whether I take that specific advice or not. I need to make some more rewrites based on other things he had said, and I may or may not do a stronger change to some of the ending stuff. How's that for clarity? So tomorrow I'll probably be doing some writing, and once I get to the end of the next draft, whatever it will be in the next day or two, I will then have to decide if I'm going to leave it as is or let someone else take a look that has not yet seen it, which I may do. I may want to get a layperson's view because, so far I've had two people look at it, both very familiar with comic books and the type of subject matter I'm doing and writers themselves. So I might want to get someone completely not a comic fan, not into, this sort of genre of stuff, not a writer, and just see if it makes sense to them all the way through. But I'll have to make that decision when I finish the rewrite, which I haven't yet done. So, yeah, I'm pretty beat. So I'm going to call that a day. And today, the day I'm calling it is 36, day 36. Now, interesting thing, I was reviewing some videos, and the last couple days, yesterday I got it right, but I think the 3 days previous, when I did my exciting ending tag, where I say how many days are left, I was saying 70 blank, and it should have been 60 blank. On Christmas, I didn't give an ending tag, and I think I just said Merry Christmas, and that was the exciting twist. But partially because of that, and partially because we know by now that I'm bad with numbers of any kind, I started getting it wrong for the 3 days after that or so. Yesterday I corrected and said there were 75 days left. And today is day 36, so that means there are 64 days left!